Is what you're wearing going to distract the person sitting next to you in school today? Everyone has differing opinions on whether school uniforms should or should not be implemented in school systems today. I, who attended public school and had a very strict dress code, believe that there should be no school uniforms across the United States. I believe that there shouldn't be school uniforms because of their proven insignificance to academics, their cost, and the restrictions on freedom of expression for students. To start off with, uniforms cause more trouble than relief to the education system. As shown here is a diagram of a girl and boy type uniform. That would be pretty typical for school. A girl wearing a blouse, skirt, knee-high socks, and shoes, while a male would be wearing a polo, button-down, khakis, and then shoes as well. In a study conducted by Virginia Draw, who is an assistant professor at YSU here in Ohio, she found that there were no correlations to academics and school uniforms. However, there were a few correlations between school uniforms and a higher attendance rate and a lower suspension rate. Not only Virginia Draw, but Dr. Brusma from Virginia Polytechnic Institute found during his study that uniforms actually had a negative effect on the 10th graders that he had a sample of. Not only this, but uniforms have often been bought from specific stores that are partnered with schools. From a personal experience person, Laura and Scott Bell stated that they spent $641 in one school year on their children's uniforms. And they basically said that it was a violation to their right of public education for free. So here I have basically just a money bag, $641 in a year. School year is 9 months out of 12, and as stated, 641 divided by 9 is approximately $72 a month for just school uniforms, added on top of a mortgage, rent, utilities, food, everything else they need to basically live. It's just an extra expense for no reason. And not only them, but the Children's Committee of Poverty found that over 95% of low-income families reported that they had difficulties trying to meet school-related costs, basically uniforms. Besides that, uniforms restrict a student's freedom of expression. So as shown here, I basically just have a picture of the Breakfast Club, who all shows their individuality, the criminal, the athlete, the basket case they described her as. She was my favorite character. The princess and the brain. So for them, it showed their different personalities in their clothing. Not only that, but their attitude, their personality. And by making them all wear the same uniform, it would just try and force them to conform to society's one thing that they should look like, and that's just not fair. From a personal experience reporter who writes a blog, her name's Alana, she believes that having no school dress code influenced females to learn how to be less judgmental, and males learn to be more respectful to young women, and everybody just gained a better sense of confidence and self-expression, which is really important during such a difficult time growing up through puberty, women and their different trends and crazy phases that they go through. So she was a personal speaker on why it would be best to allow children to express themselves. Not only this, uniforms just seem to cause more problems than solutions. So I say that supporting a petition to ban uniforms in schools across the country will effectively resolve these problems. As stated by Tom Houlihan, who is a former superintendent at schools in Oxford, North Carolina, he stated that school uniforms are a distraction from focusing on systematic and fundamental transformation to improve our schools. Basically saying that people are putting more emphasis on what kids should and should not be wearing versus their actual education, and that is not what is important. Not only will academic scores remain the same without a uniform, since there was no relative increase, the additional expenses could be cut for families to spend on better options. Like it said in the pro-con staff, school uniforms in public schools undermine the promise of a free education by imposing an extra expense on families. As shown in my PowerPoint slide earlier, $72 a month, it doesn't seem like too much, but to some people it could be the difference in eating and not eating for 1 week at the end of the month or something. So it's very important to do that. And students will be given the priceless gift of freedom of expression. So as stated in a court case, Richard v. Thurston in 1970, the court ruled that compelled conformity to the conventional standards of appearance does not seem a justifiable part of the education system, which obviously it is not. According to American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada, allowing students to choose their clothing is an empowering message from the schools that as a student is a maturing person who is entitled to the most basic self-determination. So, by doing all of these and supporting the ban of uniforms, we will create a new dynamic in the United States educational system that has never been seen before. I would just like you to imagine the happiness that will be experienced in our education system when students have less to stress about considering uniforms, when parents don't have to stress about having enough money to provide a uniform for their student, and faculty members, when they don't have to worry about school dress codes and kicking kids out. Instead of worrying about that, they can worry about teaching their students. I just want you to believe, what will our schools be like if we actually ban these uniforms? Will they actually be better, or do you think that they would be worse? And where will our schools end up if we do not go through with this now? If we end up getting more uniforms in schools across the country, will it make our grades worse? Will it make higher poverty rates in different communities? Things like that. So, in conclusion, I believe that school uniforms should be banned from all schools' code of conduct. This is because of the proven insignificance due to their academics, the cost of uniforms overall, and the restrictions on freedom of expression in students. It is up to the students, parents, and faculty today to solve this problem. Everyone must step up and take part in the change that could further change the educational system for the better.